Right, my beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid, welcome back to the channel. Okay, firstly, let me apologize for how late this video is coming out. I apologize. I had dinner last night with a bunch of old friends I hadn't seen in a long time. And for those of you that have been to Spain, I mean, you know, like dinner starts at 9 and it ends at 3 in the morning. Like that's not like on a slow night. So it's just... I got home terribly late, went to bed at like 5, and I've been nursing this hangover all day. I'm sort of popping aspirin and ibuprofen, but I'm going to power through this because I love you guys, and I do want to give you my thoughts on the match. Now, let me say this. Look, I know that we live in a black and white world where, you know, everything these days is either black or white, or like amazing or total crap. And I think that sometimes, you know, you have to be a little bit more nuanced than that. Like, look, there have been plenty of matches this season where I have been so critical of our play, and I've diagnosed everything wrong with our play and our squad in ridiculous detail. But I don't think that last night was the match to do it. Okay, if like last night was not the match for us to wake up this morning and put our hands up and go, this sucks, everything sucks. No, okay, like let's be a little bit nuanced about this. Last night was a match where we were playing away from home in Vigo, where, my God, even the pregame performance was like you would have thought it was the Champions League final. Like, okay, so you're playing away from home in a tough stadium. You're missing 11 of your franchise players, 11 of them, either through injury or ridiculous cards that refs love to hand out to our players just for fun in this liga. And on top of it, you're playing with some players that are actually playing with injuries, but they're just kind of powering through. And you're playing with, and you're relying on a bunch of kids from Castilla that none of us knew who these kids were 5 minutes ago. Like, let's be fair. So I think that, yes, that you can criticize on the all, and I've done so all year long. Last night is not the game to do it. Okay, so I think it's, if you put your hands up and start like, okay, I think that you need to be a little bit more nuanced and put things into a little bit of context. Last night is it wasn't the night to piss on the club and you got plenty of matches to do it, and we have, but I think last night you have to put into context. Okay, like there were a lot of circumstances that we were battling, and we were never going to win with magical football. It was a game that required playing with a lot of heart and soul and just kind of fighting to the bitter end, which is what we did. And we were a little bit lucky to get that goal in the end, but that's a product of believing and fighting to the end. And you know, we have to be happy that at least that aspect of our game has returned, because scoring last minute goals and pulling a rabbit out of the hat and winning matches that you don't necessarily deserve to win is very much a part of Real Madrid's DNA. So I have to say we should be a little bit happy to see that. Now, okay, so we need to put all of this into context. And then another nuance another thing that I need you guys to be a little bit nuanced about is that I can tell you look, two things can be true at the same time. Okay, 2 + 2 is 4, and the sky is blue. All right, these things are facts. They exist in isolation, and they're both true, and we can fit them both in our brain. We didn't play very well last night. It was a scrappy, mediocre performance, and we won. Like, we were a little bit lucky, and we just kind of won, you know, by sheer will. That is a fact. We played like crap and probably didn't deserve to win. Fact number 2, the refs are horrible. The refs are horrible, and there were 2 penalties that should have been called and 2 red cards that should have been given to Celta players that the refs completely overlooked, and that is a fact. So please don't write to me and say, oh, you're making excuses with the refs. I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you 2 things that are real at the same time, and they can both fit in our brain. So fact number 1, we didn't play very well. Fact number 2, the refs are absolutely dreadful, and they're always against us, and last night was ridiculous. So this is not an excuse. These are things that exist simultaneously. So we need to be a little bit nuanced about how we interpret last night, okay? Now, in terms of the match itself, look, the lineup, I don't know if you guys managed to see the short that I put out yesterday. I put out a short, but the lineup was kind of exactly as I expected. I thought that he would play Mendy as left back to sort of gauge where he is fitness-wise and performance-wise. And I also thought that Brahim would play up front on the right. I just had a feeling that he would go with Brahim instead of Gonzalo. So the starting lineup was kind of exactly what I expected. Rudiger and Asensio as center backs. Asensio playing with, like, literally he has a fissure in his tibia and he has a sprained neck, but the kid had to power through. Rudiger is still kind of not in 100% great shape, but that's what we had to play with. Mendy on the left, Trent on the right, and then in the middle of the pitch, what we all expected, Tchouaméni as pivot, and then you had Thiago Pitar, who I think had a pretty reasonable match, Arda Güler and Fede, and then up front Vini and Brahim. So no major surprises in the lineup, at least in terms of what I was expecting. Now, when the match started, okay, in the first minute, you have a horrendous foul on Tchouaméni, which under any normal circumstance is a red card. I mean, you could break a guy's knee doing this, but it wasn't even called a foul. Like, it wasn't even called a foul. This is something that I have seen red, like, all my life. Things like this are red, like, my entire life. But no, not last night, and not if it's Real Madrid. You can kick and spit and you can do whatever you want to us. It's never a foul. The cards are reserved exclusively for us. Okay, that happened in the first minute. Now, and then again, in the 8th minute, the 9th minute, there was a counter, and when Bini hit the post, like, he was being shoved from the back by the last defender. And of course that destabilized him when he took the shot. Again, this is a red card and this is a penalty. Like, if that had been Lamine Yamal, I would bet you not one testicle, both testicles, that would have been a red card and a penalty. But of course, it's Vini, and as long as it's Vini, you can do whatever the hell you want. But I thought it was scandalous. Okay, the goal finally came in the 11th minute, a corner out of the Tchouaméni. Tchouaméni has been really, really consistent, and now he's contributing even in terms of scoring. So Tchouaméni, I thought he was probably our best player last night. I think he's having a really consistent and positive season despite all of the weaknesses in our play. I think Tchouaméni is doing a good job. Now, after the goal, Celta sort of tried to push up, but it didn't last very long. By about the 20th minute, we were kind of back in possession. We looked quite comfortable in controlling the ball. We weren't really translating it into anything, positive in terms of chances, but we did look sort of fairly comfortable on the ball. And of course, all of that ended in the 24th minute, and this was the 1-1, and this was just really horrendous defending by Trent. And we know everything that Trent brings to our play offensively, but even at Liverpool, he would sometimes be criticized for being too soft defensively. I think the 1-1 last night was a good example of that. I mean, this was kind of unforgivable. I mean, there was no reason. Trent had to put a lot more pressure on the player and the ball. That was just, I thought, very slack defending. Okay, by the 30th minute, I thought, there was fairly good, for a few minutes, fairly good mobility when we were in possession. We were recovering the ball pretty quickly. Tchouaméni, I thought, was very good. But then in the final minutes of the first half, we got very sloppy again. We started to lose the ball. We started to have, problems getting the ball out of the back. And then the last few minutes of the first half ended up with Celta, creating a lot of chances. And the first half ended with a phenomenal save by Courtois. I mean, there's always one or two sort of miraculous saves every time Courtois plays. I mean, he's such an insurance that we have in the back. And we are so privileged to have Courtois as our goalkeeper, because not a match goes by that he doesn't just pull a magical save out of the hat. Okay, the second half started and we were kind of on the front foot, but incapable of really producing crystal clear chances. We were kind of struggling to get the ball into play. Brahim kind of faded into the middle to see if he could kind of make more of a difference in the middle, because he wasn't very effective on the right. I thought Brahim but it didn't really make much of a difference. I thought Brahim had a really poor match, surprisingly. Celta, now when Celta would steal the ball in the second half, they would inject a lot of speed and a lot of pace into their counters. So I thought that Celta always looked a little bit dangerous when they stole the balls. I also thought in the second half that Thiago Pitar started growing into the match, and I think started to have more of a presence in the middle of the pitch. I think the kid had a pretty good game, all things considered. In the 63rd minute, you had a penalty which is a clear penalty. Okay, out of that is at the edge of the box. He controls the ball with the first touch, and then he gets kicked while he's in the air. Now, this is a penalty 100% of the time. This would have been, again, I'm telling you, if that had been Lamine Yamal, I guarantee you that it's a penalty and a yellow. But for some reason, Our players get kicked in the box, and it's just nothing happens. It's just, I'm sorry. I have to say this again. There's no excuse for our performance, but these are statements of fact, and I thought the refs were just appalling. In the 64th minute, Arda came out and Palacios came in. Now, I thought this change was a little bit incomprehensible to me, and you could tell that Arda Güler was pissed off when he was coming off the pitch. And I have to say that I don't think he was having a great game, but I don't blame him for being pissed off, because he's always the first to get subbed. In my mind, Brahim was the weakest link. If you were going to substitute anybody in the 64th minute yesterday, I mean, in my mind, it was Brahim. I thought he was the weakest link because Arda, even if Arda is not having a great game, he does have the ability to produce something magical in a split second because he has enormous ability. He's just not the player that I would have taken off, but that's just my opinion. But I do understand that the kid was pissed. I mean, he didn't gesticulate or do anything dramatic, but you could tell that he was kind of disappointed, and I absolutely understand that. In the 67th minute, we had a good play by Palacios wide. By the way, I thought the minutes that Palacios played, I think he did quite well. In the 70th minute, you had a clear handball in the box that would always be called a penalty. The Celta player has his arm raised, but you know what they call instead? A touch foul on Tchouaméni. Tchouaméni barely touched the player. Like, I mean, if now touching someone is a foul, I mean, especially in the box. I mean, do you see what people do to each other in a corner kick? Like, people are like on top of each other. They're like rugby tackling each other. And you're telling me that Tchouaméni, a touch, that's a foul? This is, again, completely ridiculous. And if it had been any other team, I guarantee you that would have been called a penalty. So again, it's not an excuse. It's just a statement of fact. Okay, in the 89th minute, we had Thiago come off and Manuel Angel come in, again relying on these kids that none of us knew much about until very, very recently. So it's kind of interesting. Here's another player that we need to sort of discover. In the 91st minute, we had a good counter, but the pass into the box was blocked. And then, of course, the miracle goal came in the 94th minute, and Fede, yes, it was a little bit lucky because it was deflected, but at the end of the day, you have to make your own luck, and that wouldn't have happened if Fede had not made the run forward, if he had not been in front of the box, if he hadn't taken the shot. So yes, the deflection was lucky, but we have to give credit to the team for pushing and fighting until the last minute. So I just want to mention that at least the spirit of fighting until the final whistle was there, and that was really something good to see. Even though, like I say, the shot was a little bit lucky. Now there were a couple of yellow cards towards the end of the match, one on Asensio and one on Tchouaméni. The Tchouaméni that weren't even fouls. They just were not even fouls. It's amazing to me. The cards that we are given, it's just incredible. Do you know that Mastantuono, and I have to harp on about this because it's very relevant. Mastantuono got a red card the other day and 2 games of sanctions. You know what he said? He said, "This is a disgrace." He said, "Esto es una vergüenza," which literally means this is a disgrace. I mean, okay, a player saying this is a disgrace, do you think that is worthy of a red card and a 2-game ban? But that's what he said. That's all he said. He said, "Esto es una vergüenza." And for that, he got a red card. Okay, do you know what Rafinha said to a line judge? And by the way, this was recorded and it's on audio and you can hear it. Now, this is a bit vulgar, so I'm prefacing this. If you're very prickly, hit the mute button. But expressions in Spanish can be quite rude and vulgar. Rafinha said to the 4th ref, "I crap on your whore mother. Me cago en tu puta madre." Okay, I crap on your whore mother. That's a lot. There's a lot in there. Okay, you got crap. You got the mother being a whore. Like, there's a lot in there. And you know what happened to Rafinha? Nothing. Then Mastantuono says this is a disgrace, and he gets a red card and a 2-game ban. I'm sorry. This is just, you guys need to be aware of this because it's nauseating to watch week in and week out. Look, the match was, like I say, this was a very mediocre performance and very scrappy, but that's the situation we were in. This was the only way we were gonna win. It was gonna be scrappy. We were gonna try to fight. Like, if you want to criticize Real Madrid, you've had plenty of opportunities to do it this year, rightfully so, as I have done on a million occasions, but I don't think last night is the night to pick on them. I don't think that last night is the night to draw universal conclusions about how horrible we are. No, we're missing 11 players. We're playing with kids no one's ever heard of. Like, two of our defenders, half of our defensive line is playing injured. Like, please. And Mendy hadn't played in God knows how long. So you have to put things into context. And I think that as critical as we need to be of the squad, I don't think that last night is the night that we pick on them. Okay, I just don't. I think that it would be out of context to draw vast conclusions from the match last night. It was always going to be scrappy. We were always going to be just fighting tooth and nail, and that's what we did. And we pulled out a win, and perhaps fortunately, but that's the kind of game we knew it was going to be. So we have to put things into context, I think. Okay, in terms of players, okay, Courtois, I don't know, man. I'd give him like a 7 or something. Like Courtois always has 1 or 2 magical saves. Not that much he could do in the goal. I mean, but Courtois is just an unbelievable insurance policy we have in the back. Mendy was surprisingly good. Okay, now I know this was a horrible match and all that kind of stuff. I was very curious to see what condition Mendy was in, and I think this is why I suspected Arbeloa would play him, because we needed to see what kind of shape Mendy was in. And I actually thought he defended quite well. He had a couple of recoveries that were very impressive. He actually looked really good to me. I mean, I thought played a reasonable match. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comment section. I could be, but I had the impression Mendy played quite well. Asensio did not have a great day, but you can tell that the kid is playing with a sprained neck, and he has a fissure in his tibia. Like he's got a hairline fracture in his tibia, and the kid's still playing. And you could tell in a couple of situations where he's trying to recover and backtrack, you could tell that speed wasn't there. And that's one of the great attributes of Asensio, is that killer speed he has, especially in recovery. And you could tell he was a little bit slower than usual last night. So again, I don't want to be too hard. I don't think he had a great game at all. I thought he was a bit soft, but I do have to take into account that he's playing with a couple of injuries, and so it can't be easy to do that. Rudiger I thought was okay. I mean, I'd probably give him like a 6, very solid. He also didn't look 100% to me, but just his sheer sort of experience and his physical presence alone, I think are enough to really interrupt opposing play. I think Rudiger is just always a very kind of solid, consistent defender, and I think he played, you could tell, with a little bit of discomfort, but I thought he played okay. Trent disappointed me a lot last night, especially defensively. I mean, I thought he sort of started okay, but the goal I think is kind of unforgivable. I think defensively he was really soft and showed us some of those weaknesses in terms of defense. I think Trent, I wouldn't give him more than a 3 or 4. I just don't think he had a very good game. Tchouaméni, I thought, was our best player. Everything seemed to go through him. Anytime we interrupted Celta's play, it always seemed to be Tchouaméni who's doing the ball stealing or the tackling. I think Tchouaméni is having a fantastic season, and I think he was our best player last night. So I give Aurélien a lot of credit. Fede, I thought, was pretty good. I mean, pretty good. He, I think, started kind of slow. He was a little bit more tentative in the first half, but I think he kind of picked up a lot more rhythm in the second half. I thought he participated a lot more. He was drifting more to the middle. He just seemed more active in our attack. And of course, he delivered that magnificent sort of goal in the last minute, which are the kind of heroics that we love. You know, to win even when you don't play particularly well is still a beautiful thing. And we have Fede to thank for that. I thought he played okay. I thought Thiago played okay. Again, our collective play as a team wasn't particularly good, but there were isolated players that I think, all things considered, were okay. I think Thiago, especially in the second half, I thought he played quite well, and I'm impressed with this kid's composure and his ability to handle the pressure, not just in the Bernabeu, but away from home. And he's proven that he can play under these conditions and keep his head on straight. His work rate is very good. He fights a lot. He runs a lot. He chases a lot of balls. He's very hungry. He has that kind of youthful energy. I think Thiago was pretty good. Arda was less effective than usual. I think, he had a kind of inconsistent game. There were some good passes, but it wasn't, he didn't really take over the midfield the way that we would like to see. I thought Arda was sort of, a little bit inconsistent, maybe a 4 or a 5 or something like that. I don't think he should have been subbed. I think that Brahim should have been subbed. And I do understand Arda's frustration of getting subbed all the time. He didn't have a great game, but again, I don't think he would have been my first choice to sub. Bini, I thought, was, not great. He was a lot less active than usual. He, normally Bini's like a fly, like at the dinner table. Like he comes back and over, and you just kind of can't get rid of him. He's just over and over. Vini's a guy that loves to take people on constantly, and eventually one of those plays works. Last night he was less active. He did a lot less of that. I thought he took players on. He was just less involved in the attack compared to other matches. So I think Vini was kind of mediocre. I hope that's not what we see against City, because we're going to need the very best version of Vini in that match. Brahim, I thought, was really bad, and I thought it was a good idea to play him, and I think it's probably the decision I would have made to put Brahim on the right up front over Gonzalo, because Gonzalo's last couple of matches haven't been great. I thought I would have also given Brahim the chance to start, but I thought he kind of wasted the opportunity. He lost a lot of balls. He was just unable to really create anything, even when he drifted to the middle of the pitch and played more of a 10 position. He didn't really have an impact on play. And like I say, lost a lot of balls and just wasn't able to produce anything. I think Brahim had a pretty bad match. Okay, the refs, I thought the refs were appalling. They're just absolutely appalling. Again, this is not an excuse, but the refs were appalling, and that has to be said. Okay, now, looking forward to the next match against City. I'll of course be at the Bernabeu, and I'll give you guys shorts and the atmosphere. By the way, the bus arrival is going to be killer, because the bigger the matches get, the cooler the atmosphere is when the bus arrives, and the more people, it gets really, really intense once you get into the deeper parts of the Champions League. So some of the footage will be very cool, and I'll share all of that with you guys. I think it's going to be a very tough match, and we need to. When I think about the City match and our injury situation and all of that, I know that our football is very limited this season. We're playing very poor football. It's very disconnected. We rely a lot on individual play, moments of brilliance and all that, all the stuff that we've talked about over and over on this channel. But the one thing that I will say, and the one thing that is not forgivable, is that we need to outwork and outrun. The one thing that you control in football, like if your passes aren't working, if you're not playing well, this can happen. Okay, there are days that are just sort of off days, but the one thing that you're always in control of 100% is your work rate. And the one thing that you should be able to guarantee in every match is that you outwork your rival. And so what I want to see in the match against City is I want us to play with incredible heart and passion and intensity from the first minute. We need to remind these players at Man City, they're not going to be very happy to play in the Bernabeu. I guarantee you that. I don't care how poorly we're playing this year. There's not a team in the world that is happy about having to play at the Bernabeu in the Champions League. Okay, it's literally everybody's worst nightmare. So these Man City players need to be reminded where they're playing, what club they're playing against, and the way that we can do that and get into their head is if we start playing from the very first minute with crazy aggressiveness and intensity. And if we do that, we can win. And that's the only way that we can win. Football, pound for pound, football-wise, they're a better side right now, especially because if you consider the fitness of both squads, City are in a much better place. But if we outwork them and outrun them, and if we get into their head just by virtue of our intensity, we can win. I know it sounds incredibly insane, but it's the only way that we can win. And it's the one thing that we need to do from the first minute, which I'm really hoping to see. Anyway, guys, okay, those are my thoughts. I'm glad I made it to the end of the video because my head is pounding. But anyway, thanks for joining me. I love you guys. And I'll definitely see you guys. I'll do a preview of the City match, of course, and I'll give you guys some cool content during the day of the match as well. All right, love you guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And as always and forever, a la Madrid.